Welcome to Far East Wargaming, bringing you another Heresy Thursday. I'm Richard, and it's a pleasure once again to welcome Jason to the podcast with us. This week, we're going to be looking at the latest releases from Games Workshop for the Horus Heresy range. It's been a while since we've been able to catch up on this, and they've released quite a few new characters for Horus Heresy.
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm really happy to be back and totally agree, Rich. There's been a lot of releases for the Horus Heresy as far as the character models go. We're going to collect a lot of these in kind of one discussion. I'm actually very excited about some of these models. I have to say that this is a marked improvement, I think, overall from what we've seen in some of the previous releases.
So we have 5 to go through today. So let's start off with the first, which is a Traitor Console. And he looks to be wearing a version of the new Mark III Artificer armor, and he is carrying a Paragon blade and what looks like a Volkite, which seems to be the new preference from Games Workshop for kits and loadouts for consoles.
Yes, indeed. It looks to be a Artificer version of the Mark III. I actually really like it the way that this one looks. I just don't particularly care for the helm. He is definitely carrying a Volkite Serpenta, which seems to be the fashionable choice for HQ these days. I do like the model, but there is some questionable icons on there. These little fireball-looking things on the shoulder pad corners, the Eye of Horus on the belt buckle, but it's nothing that can't stop you from actually converting this model over to a Loyalist or to another character. At first glance, I do really like this one. Just that helmet, I don't know, it's just kind of weird to me.
For me, it comes down to the backpack as well, because we've really moved away from the classic Mark III, and this has moved to, I know we're supposed to be in the 30,000th millennium, and this is space age, but this seems in a different genre of sci-fi to me.
Yeah, I can see that as well. Again, I think it comes back to the artificer aspect of the armor, kind of making it a bit unique. But I definitely see where you're coming from. That backpack is also not even the new version of the Mark III. For me, I do like it. I mean, I like those bonding studs on the greaves. That's a really nice touch. The reinforced chest plate kind of lends itself to like certain legions. Like it could be Iron Warriors, could be Iron Hands, could be Death Guard. I mean, I like all of that. Again, the little fireball symbols are kind of what ruins it for me, and that helmet as well. But that's an easy enough thing to swap. I mean, again, I think this model has a lot of potential, and it doesn't bother me. And for God's sakes, it's not another Mark VI, so we can be happy about that.
You're right, it isn't another Mark VI, so we are getting a new variation here. And one thing I do like about this model is what they've done with the sword, because it's very rare that we see sheaths on swords anymore. And this Paragon blade comes with the attached sheath on the side there. I think it's just a nice little touch.
Yeah, definitely that was a good call out on the sheath. That is a nice touch that we don't see very often on models. Again, I don't have the model myself, so I don't know if that sheath is a separate part to be glued onto the model or not. But if it is separate, then it should be easy enough if you want to do a weapon swap. But again, it makes it a really nice model, maybe as a basis for a Librarian with Force Sword or a Praetor's Paragon weapon. I mean, all in all, this one for me is a win. I haven't ordered it yet, but I probably will order a couple because, again, I think it lends itself to certain legions, and it does have a lot of ease of conversion potential. So thumbs up for me.
Well, speaking of Librarians, the second model they released was a White Scars Librarian, including the Psychic Hood, which has been modeled in the newer fashion.
Yeah, I absolutely love this model. And it's just dripping with detail. It's definitely not one that's going to be a conversion base, in my opinion, for other legions, just because there's just way too much icons, decoration and trim and stuff like that screams White Scars. It's really nice. I mean, if you look at the legs, you look at the chest piece, this is definitely a modified Mark II, which fits a lot with what we've seen previously with the White Scars. The nice touch of the skull on the staff, the leather waist, call it an apron, call it whatever is the official term, but I like that as well. I mean, a lot of character in this model. This one is really, really well done. And I don't even think you have to use it purely as a Storm Seer if you're a White Scar player. You could definitely do some weapon swaps on this and maybe not attach the Psychic Hood, and it becomes a great basis for pretty much any other White Scars character. And now the White Scars have a lot of character choices. They're kind of spoiled like our friends the Imperial Fist, don't you think?
Well, I don't think anybody's quite as spoiled as the Imperial Fists. Maybe the Sons of Horus are coming in close there. So I can't complain, and I won't complain about Games Workshop giving some love to the other legions. I think the conversion ability there is possible if you wanted to put it to a few of the legions, but you will have to shave off quite a few things. And those leather greaves, I think, like more like horse riding, akin to that for the White Scars, is an interesting touch to it. But I will say that I find it strange. Well, I understand what they've done with the force weapon or the staff weapon, but personally, from games I've seen, staffs aren't the weapon you kind of put on your librarians or stormseers.
Yeah, fair enough on the weapon. I don't think anybody in our group or many groups is probably going to be too picky if you represent that as something else. But yes, obviously in certain events you'll want to play pure WYSIWYG and probably have to change that up a bit. Or you could just simply add it, attached to the waist or, to the backpack or something like that. But I mean, overall, this model for me is a win. And the White Scars are one of those legions that also looks really good with no helmet. So you almost get a bonus here, right? You can leave the bare head, and then you can also take that that nice little helmet that they have here, and you can add that to another one of your characters. Overall, big win for me on this model, and it's kind of giving an encouraging trend of what we've seen with the new character releases.
Well, any trend that's away from yellow and green is a good trend for me in terms of character choices and selections here. And with these releases, they have tried to keep with that. And the same can be said for the new Thousand Suns model here. This one here, again, very Thousand Suns. There's no way of not seeing that in this model here. But to me, it looks fantastic.
I got to agree with you completely. I mean, this model to me is absolutely stunning. They really, really did a fantastic job on it. It's in Mark IV armor, which is a nice touch. This weapon that he's carrying, I mean, this could be a Paragon blade. This could be a Force lance, a Power lance. This could be so many different weapons. I really, really like it a lot. Again, we've got the multiple head choices, which basically gives you a free head that you can add somewhere else. This thing is dripping with detail, which is absolutely fantastic and can be used with so many of the different console choices or Praetor choice for the Thousand Suns. I like this one a lot. You see so many people that have been using the Armon plastic model as a base for a lot of characters, and now all of a sudden you have something that's even better in my opinion. So again, I think this is just another great one from GW, and I say that not as a fanboy, but just I really like the model a lot.
The level of detail gone into this model really does impress me, and I'm really happy to see it for the Thousand Suns, but just because, let alone the scrolls on the side, those 3 scrolls there, just a very nice touch. I think the tabard or tassels, whatever you want to call those, that are framing the scabbard chestplate, I'd be interested to see if those engravings are molded in or if they were free-handed onto the model. But regardless, there's a lot of possibilities here. With all these new models, we've seen this pendant for cloaks, and I do like the way that they've left a lot of room if you wanted to freehand or put some of the transfers and mold them to the inside of the cloak. Here we see the white part, or some of the flatter portions of the outside, the back side of the cloak there. It just gives a lot of room for people to open up their creativity in terms of painting and detail.
Yeah, I think this is the right level of detail to me in terms of a good balance between making the model look really good and not being just too excessive to paint or drawing the eye in too many different directions. I have no complaints about this model from a detail perspective. I think if I was to make any sort of criticism of it, it remains to be seen how delicate that staff is with the blades and with the staff itself. I mean, if it's resin, then that's going to be something that is probably prone to breakage, although the newer models seem to be a little bit better in that regard. I honestly have no other criticisms besides that. And probably one thing we haven't talked about with any of these model reveals either is, sometimes depending on what legion you're putting it on, you can wind up with a lot of extra bits, which are good for, kit bashing or conversions on other models. So again, I don't want to beat the point to death. I like the model a lot. I have almost no complaints about it. This one is a winner.
Moving on from what can be quite easily considered a winner to what I personally would consider a miss or a loser, it's the fourth model, the Dark Emissary. Another model for the Sons of Horus, for another console that we didn't need. I can't say anything bad about the model itself. I do, once again, love the level of detail. It's a version of the Mark IV. But I would have loved to see something similar for the Wordbearer Legions.
Yeah, I hear you on this. I'm kind of a mixed opinion on this particular model. I do agree with you that the last thing we needed was another Sons of Horus character. Yes, the Dark Emissary is a unique choice for them, but honestly speaking, there was nothing stopping you from using a plethora of other models or building your own. I do like the main armor itself. It is Mark IV. It's got a lot of nice details on it, but it is, again, going to be a model that's not going to be so easy for converting, because you've got things like, the Sons of Horus specific decoration on the tassels and things like this. I think, to my mind, there's too many symbols. You've got it on the staff, you've got it on his backpack, you've got that thing on a chain on his hand, and this is where the model kind of loses it for me. Again, I understand he's a Dark Emissary, he's some sort of preacher, prophet type guy, but come on, this was just entirely too much. That little chain thing out of his hand as well is just screaming to get broken. I think, again, as a basis for converting for a lot of other console choices for the Sons of Horus, or even some of the Traitor Legions, it's got a lot of potential, but the model as is just not as good to me as the other ones that we've reviewed for the reasons that I just stated.
I can quite easily see a Sons of Horus player using this model as one of the Librarians, just because it does scream Librarian to me. I really don't see anybody taking the time to convert this into any of the other legions. There are just too many Eyes of Horuses, like you said, scattered around the model, from the massive one on the chest plate to the smaller ones scattered all over the figurine himself. I think that GW could have given us something for any of the other legions, other than, right, they didn't have a model for the Dark Emissary, which they released the rules for, but there were so many other models and it's such a nondescript console himself that we didn't need something specific for him.
All fair points. I think where I can also see some use out of this is basically you're going to cannibalize this to personalize other models. That backpack is really nice. Not the icon on the top, which again, I'm not a huge fan of, but if you look at the back, it's got the lodge tokens. It's got the gold dripping skulls of enemies, as the Sons of Horus like to take. And you're right, there's way too many Eyes of Horus, which are appropriate for other Traitor Legions, but those things on the end of the tassels are actually the symbols of the Sons of Horus Reavers. So yeah, you're right. Probably it's not going to be converted into the other legions. If I was a Sons of Horus player, I probably would still buy one of these and just be taking bits and pieces from different parts of it and spreading the love across multiple models. So I think it's a good basis for that. Overall, it's not a bad model. I just think probably you and I are completely in alignment. It just wasn't needed. And then again, that thing on a chain hanging out of his hand, there's no way that thing survives a lot of repeated gameplay. It's going to break off so quick. And same for those little spikes too. The more spikes, the smaller the spikes. They tend to break off a lot from regular gaming handling. So I don't know. Overall, I'm going to give it a thumbs down, but as a basis for kit bashing for a lot of other models, I'm going to give it a thumbs up.
The last model that was released was the Saboteur for the Alpha Legion. And to me, I can't even describe how much I love this model. I'm glad the Alpha Legion has got some more character love there. There is so much on this model that screams Alpha Legion, from the scales to the helm to the power dagger that they're famous for. It's just a very well designed model, and with pulling out of scouts that we've had, this here, even if you didn't want to run him as a saboteur, could quite easily be a sergeant for another legion's scouts, as long as you removed some of the Alpha Legion symbols and maybe painted over or patched over some of the scales there.
I am totally with you on this model. I mean, it's awesome. It's Mark V. You can see the power cables on the thighs and the way that the armor is done. I think it's one of our few, it might even possibly be the only Mark V, pure Mark V model that we've seen for characters, except for maybe the old school champion model. I think has a mix of different armor types. I mean, this model is fantastic for all the reasons that you mentioned. And yes, absolutely could be used as a different character or even a squad sergeant or all kinds of stuff inside of the Alpha Legion. And the Alpha Legion have actually been really spoiled for choice. I mean, we have the Saboteur, this guy, we have their version of the Vigilator, I can't even remember his name off the top of my head, the guy who one of many, Exodus, that's it. We've got the Termi armor and the power armor, Praetors. I mean, it's a great model. I'm not sure about the conversion potential, just because that's going to be, I mean, unless you're really good with the green stuff, that's going to be a lot of work to convert this over. But yeah, this thing is just screaming Alpha Legion. I guess probably the only question I have is, or probably criticism I would have is why not put like a silencer or something on that bolter? That way it could count as a Nemesis bolter or something else. But I mean, that's an easy enough fix, and it's a really minor criticism. I love it. I love this model a lot. I could even see him as a squad sergeant for some Seekers or for a recon squad or for some headhunters. Just so many good things about this model. Really like it. And that backpack is really unique as well, because as Mark V, you'll notice the backpack is not the same as the Mark VI. A lot of really good choices here. You even have a poison sphere or venom sphere on his chest. Another nice touch to go along with the power dagger.
I think you're right. For the bolter, they could have put in the silencer to make it Nemesis-esque, or a scope of some sort on it. But then again, it's an easy conversion. We've seen it done hundreds of times with a bit of Q-tip and toothpick kind of thing like this. My one nitpick, and it has been with all the recent bolters that have been put out by Games Workshop for the Horus Heresy, is the leather straps. It just doesn't make sense to me for Space Marines who have maglock to have leather straps on their bolters. But again, I think it's just an aesthetic choice that they've made that I don't personally agree with. But to each their own. And once again, it's very easy to snip that off, even though it is in resin there.
Yeah, fair enough on the leather strap. I can totally see from a lore perspective why that would be kind of questionable, but from a detail perspective, it doesn't bother me too much. Yeah, I mean, just to kind of wrap things up from my perspective, I think all of these models, with the exception of the Dark Emissary, are really nice, right? And again, giving impartial feedback, each one of the models perhaps does have something that you could criticize. I think the only one for me is the Dark Emissary, which is meh, which is questionable just because it really wasn't needed. But again, it has its potential and use elsewhere. So I got to hand it to GW and to Forgeworld. You guys have really done some good stuff on these particular character models. I'm going to be picking up a few of the different ones myself after the first of the year, and as finances allow, because I have some of these legions, and for some of the others, I'm going to use these as a conversion potential. But yeah, I think this was a really good discussion, and I'm overall really pleased with these models, which is probably not what we always say when we do these reviews. But yeah, I think that's it from me. Great session, great models. I mean, not much else you can ask for.
That does round up this week's Heresy Thursday. It was a short one, but thank you for tuning in. And like always, if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the bell notification icon so you get notified when we release our latest videos. We're releasing videos on a Monday and a Thursday. And if you did enjoy this, please like and comment. It helps us get the algorithm going with YouTube. And we are trying to grow steadily throughout this year. We've reached our 1,000 milestone and looking to grow bigger as the end of year and beginning of 2024 comes around. But from me, Richard, see you next time.
Catch you on the next one.